Well, I never thought I'd get round to this next one. Um, Without boring you, Rigid, I'm feeling decidedly dodgy at the moment, mentally and physically, and I'm having a few, what can I call them? Challenges, I suppose. Yeah. But I suppose to try and sort of forget about those. I quite like doing these Sunday sound bites. Okay, so I hope you're listening, or I hope you will listen, and I hope you will subscribe to my channel. So I'm going to be a bit subdued today, I think. Okay, and today's session, short session, is going to be about the most ignored stakeholders in change. One of the biggest mistakes organizations make during change is not poor communication, it's not weak training or even lack of planning. It's ignoring the very people who are most affected by the change. When we talk about stakeholders, most change managers immediately think about sponsors, senior leaders, project teams, managers, etc. Yes, these groups are important, but they often receive the majority of attention, while others are left in the shadows. So, who are the most ignored stakeholders in change? Well, first of all, they are your customers. Many change initiatives are designed to improve efficiency, reduce cost, or transform internal operations. Yet, organizations sometimes forget to ask a simple question: how will this impact our customers? A new process, system, or operating model make perfect sense internally, but if it creates confusion, delays, or a proper customer experience, the change may ultimately fail because customers may not attend project meetings, but they often feel the consequences more than anyone else. The second one is frontline employees. Tell me another one. Ironically, the people who must actually live with the change every day are frequently consulted the very least. Decisions are often made in boardrooms and project offices by people who are far removed from day to day operations. Frontline employees usually know where the real problems are and where the risks lie and what is likely to work best in practice. If you ignore their insights, you risk designing a solution that looks good on paper but absolutely struggles in reality. The third one, and I've written about this a few times, middle managers. They can be some of the most influential people in any change initiative because what they do is they translate strategy into action and are often the first people employees turn to when they have major concerns or questions that have been unanswered. Yet, many organizations simply assume managers will support a change without giving them the information they require, the tools or confidence they need. When managers are left with uncertainty, that uncertainty spreads rapidly throughout the organization. And then finally, external suppliers and partners. Modern organizations rarely operate in isolation. Changes to systems, to processes, to policies, or ways of working often have a direct impact on suppliers, on contractors, distributors, and strategic partners. These stakeholders are frequently forgotten until the final stages of implementation, by which time problems and resistance may have already emerged. The most visible stakeholders are not always the most important ones. Okay. One of the first questions I used to ask when I was on the contract market doing change management, one of the first questions I ask is, who are we not talking to? Because that question often reveals more risk than any project plan, risk register, or impact assessment can ever do. Successful change is not just about engaging the obvious stakeholders, it's about identifying the overlooked stakeholders before they become the forgotten stakeholders. Because in change management, people do not resist because they were consulted too much. Think about it. More often than not, they resist because nobody thought to, and I'm going to use my favourite word, involve them at all. And sometimes, quite often actually, the most ignored stakeholders do have the greatest influence over whether your change succeeds or fails. That's going to be another future session, by the way. I'm going to talk about the balanced business scorecard to measuring success. Anyway, just a quick closing thought before I finish, and this is quite a short one, but my closing thought is the stakeholders you overlook today may become the resistance you face in the future. So get out there. Co-creation, collaboration, cooperation, involvement, for goodness sake. That's what you need to do, regardless of whether they're internal people, or external customers, suppliers, etc., etc. Take a look at your whole stakeholder ecosystem and identify those that are impacted, and then engage with them. Do not ignore them. So, thank you very much again. Just trying to think. I've already mentioned one Sunday soundbite for the future. I've got a few logged, but I can't remember what they are. So I'll see you again.